National TV. You're most welcome for this edition. This is the Friday and the last edition of the KOKOLIRIKO live show for this week. It's a great pleasure having you on board from wherever you're watching us from. It could be within Uganda, East Africa, and Africa at large. Also, this is where I want to say good morning and you're most welcome. And for those of you watching us that is across overseas, it could be in Europe, it could be in Asia, it could be elsewhere, but we are saying nonetheless, you're most welcome to the show. And be it a good morning, a good night from wherever it is, we say you are still very, very much welcome to the show. This is where we are going to be doing discussions up to the hour of 9 o'clock. And remember, later on, we are going to be joined by a guest. He is none other than LEMERIGHA FADHIL, with whom we are going to be discussing and analyzing what is happening in Kenya, where the president yesterday did come out to dissolve the entire cabinet and left just some few. I don't know what that means. He will be here to explain to us what that means and what that will mean to his leadership, because I believe that will be having an implication either negatively or positively on his reign, and he will be here to sort of let us know that. And that is where I want to take this opportunity now to welcome you in a special way and say, in case you will be having anything that you feel you need to put forward, our comment section is wide open. Feel free to drop the comment there, and I will be in position to check through some of your comments and some of the issues that you feel you need to front forward for us to understand, because whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, our issues and our views also really are very, very much important. At the end of the day, we also want to see how best we can be able to transform the society in there, and that is where I will be asking you to also share your opinions, share your ideas, but we must be also respectful, and we must also not undermine and attack anybody, because if at all we are going to be doing that, then that is going to be quite unfortunate. And it is where I want to start with the discussions right away with what's happening in northern Uganda, because usually we say east or west, home is the best. And yesterday we did see Archbishop-elect, that is Wakorach, are also arriving in Gulu for installation, and most of the people from Nebi were also in position to accompany him there. It means that is really the kind of mood that we want, and it was really a quite joyous mood where we did see our people also really moving up to Gulu city in there, which is really quite fortunate, and that is also really very nice to always watch up to do that, because whether we like it or not, we are still the same people. We are still people of northern Uganda, be it naturally, be it Lango, be it in West Nile sub-region. We are still the same. That is also really where we are very much proud. And Wakorach will be joining in there, and the new Archbishop-elect, that is also really for Gulu Archdiocese, the Right Reverend, that is Raphael Opomoni Wakorach, arrived at the Archbishop's residence, that is in Gulu City, on Thursday evening, and that is something we did see happening in yesterday. And Wakorach was welcomed by a jubilant sea of faithful and the Archbishop Emeritus, that is John Baptist Odama, in that also sanction we did see yesterday in there. And with the traditional dances, thousands of people in the Gulu city also last even took the streets, that is to welcome the new Archbishop also to the city in there. And that is what we did see. And Nebi also really was very much proud, because he is coming from Nebi, and definitely he will be also now relocating, that is to Gulu city in there. That means that is quite fortunate, and we always want to see that. We want to see more of these activities, and at one time we want to see more leaders already moving from Gulu and also to West Nile in here, and that would also make us develop, and that is where we are saying we must develop together. And Gulu Day is developing at a faster speed. I believe also the other parts of West Nile could be able to pick a leaf from that, and that is where we are saying we need to also make sure that goes on. And that is one thing we did see happening in yesterday, and I feel there's more that needs to be done to that in line to that, and at the end of the day, that is also really something that we are going to be attaining in there. And I feel that is actually the way to go. We need to also really make sure that we are together, be it in Gulu, be it naturally, because whether you're Naluru, whether you're Lango, whether you're Lubara, whether you are naturally, definitely you are still part of the northern Uganda in there. And that is why we must also always make sure that we are the same people. And at the end of the day, that is one thing also really that will be able to really bring development in there. And we did see Reverend Father Lawrence Kumaket, the chairperson organizing committee of the function, saying that it has been a great task in preparation of the event and looking forward for the ceremony being a memorable occasion filled with that is really reverence and hope in there, because at the end of the day, this is actually what we want to see, because it brings in, first of all, unity, it brings in joy, because we were able to see really smiles on the people, faces of the people, and that is actually the way to go if at all we are to develop as northern Uganda in there. And I feel that is the way to go, because if at the end of the day we are not doing that, then that will be quite unfortunate. And I feel we need to do that, and we did see that also really going on. And Archbishop Wakorach held a brief prayer with the jubilant faithful a few minutes after his arrival at the residence, where he blessed the people, and that is actually what brought more happiness to the people. And that is actually what we want to see. And the Gulu Resident City Commissioner, Jane Francis Amongin, thanks the security for providing safety to all people who came to welcome the new Archbishop in there. And she also pledged to provide utmost security ahead of the installation ceremony due to take place today also really in there. And that is actually what we want to see, and we want to see more of these activities going on. And I feel at the end of the day that we will be able to bring about development that we are looking forward to. And I feel that is the way to go, because if at all we do not do that, then definitely that will be quite unfortunate. And that is where we are saying we need to support now the leadership that is coming in place. And we did see that happening, because we are able to see the new interaction also with the outgoing Archbishop and the new Archbishop being together, and also where he was brought to, that is the Archbishop's residence, which is really a nice thing to see, because at the end of the day these are things really that we feel we must also really talk about, because I believe he is going to be stepping in a shoe that is really very much heavy, but with the support he is going to be doing what it takes to solely make sure that the society is transformed in there. And that is where I want to leave that at that. And we get to look at what is happening elsewhere. Yesterday we did see a rural district also really joining the rest of the world in also really celebrating what we call the World Population Day in there. And the rural city actually hosted the country's also celebrations, which did go on. That is at Erua Primary School playgrounds in there. And that is what we did see happening in yesterday. And that was something we did see, which was really quite unfortunate for us to also get to understand, because many of people also came to witness what was happening in a rural district. And that is actually something I feel I cannot be able to solely exclude out in there as we get to move on with the show, because at the end of the day, when we talk about World Population Day today, we have realized that our population is on the rise, and that is where I want to leave that aside. Now let's move in nationally, where in Chotera a prominent coffee farmer has been found dead. Who killed him is something we do not know, but we are yet following up on residents of Biangiri in Nakatogo Parish, the Nabigasa sub-county in Chotara district already are in shock and fear after the body of Polofi Tamale, a prominent coffee farmer in the district, was found lying in his coffee estate. And that is also something we did see happening in there, but whoever killed this man remains unknown. But really, why would people do these actions already of murder? And each and every time we're talking about murder, and this continues to go on, and we are saying people are losing lives, but how best? And what exactly should we do to make sure that this vice of murder does not go on? Because at the end of the day, this is putting many people at fear, and also it's putting many people's lives in danger, because many people do not know actually what to do when such issues also arrive in. And the discovery comes after a 2-day search also for the 57-year-old who went missing on Sunday in there, and the Tamale's body was discovered just a kilometer from his home, lying in one of his coffee estates in there. And that is one we did see happening in there. The well-known figure in the community, Tamale, was not only prominent coffee farmer, but also owned several rental houses in Biangiri town in there. And Leonard Sentogo, at the Biangiri village chairperson and Tamale's brother, recounted the events leading to his death in there, and that is what we did see also in there. But whoever killed him, this is definitely something we don't know, but really we are saying issues of murder should be also really looked keenly, because at the end of the day, I really want to implore security, and I really want to appeal to the security to make sure that keen interest is also given to the issues of looking out for issues of security, because we are talking about security concern also really being on the rise in that. And some attribute his death to over-drinking and the poor nutrition also in there. That's something I do not know. And relatives and friends of Tamale revealed that he was a habitual drinker, often neglecting food in there. And that is why we're saying people must avoid tendencies of over-drinking, because this is not only happening to Tamale, and today we are seeing so many people who do not want to eat food, and they feel whatever money they get should be able to go to alcohol. Many of them are doing this because of several reasons. Others feel it is depression, and that's certainly true, because sometimes depressed people also resort to alcohol and other substances which they do abuse in there. And I feel that is not the way to go, and we are saying much as you are having a problem, you must also have people that you confide in, people whom you can call confidential, people whom you can refer to whenever you have any challenges, so that solely you do not resort to drug abuse, because I really feel drug abuse is not the way to go. Whatever you do under the influence of drugs may not be able to solely still solve that problem, and then you just be adding, because money you will be able to use to solve the problem, you are going to be using it and wasting it on that is drinking alcohol, which at the end of the day still solves nothing. And that's why we're saying people must avoid tendencies of wanting to rely on alcohol, thinking that alcohol will be able to solve their problems in there. But we are saying now you're not going to be solving that problem, because at the end of the day, if you are sober, you forget your problems. But whenever the alcohol solely moves out of your brain, definitely you go back to solely still thinking. And that is why we're saying today people must avoid tendencies of thinking that alcohol will be able to solve their problems, because we are saying that is never a solution, and alcohol can never solve that problem that you are going through. It may not be able to be still other drugs, because people are still smoking. Today we have people who are smokers, others are those who abuse other substances such as marungi, others into alcohol, others into opium. But we are saying that can never solve that problem that you are going through. You better use that money for eating food, so that solely you remain healthy. And to the alcoholics, we are solely saying, please, if at all you are going to be drinking, first mind about, if at all now you feel that you cannot do without alcohol, because we have people who say, for me, I cannot be able to do without alcohol. We are saying avoid that. Also, first of all, resort and use this money that you're having through also to make sure that also you use it for eating food in there. Still related to what we're talking about health, NDA assures public after claims of magnetic capsule pills is also another story that we are seeing on this morning, where the National Drug Authority has expressed concern over a recent video circulating on social media showing an individual solely spilling opening capsules of a specific drug and demonstrating also that the powder can be attracted also by a magnet in there, and that is what we did see happening in there. And according to NDA Public Relations Manager Biaz Ramwizi, the video mirrors also a similar one from December 2023, where an unidentified man claimed that the drug caused also severe pain to his wife in there. And what exactly is happening, and whoever manufactured this drug also now should come out and explain whatever may be component that they used in this drug, because if at all such complaints are now emerging, because one person said it brought pain to the wife, and now another is coming out to say that it is also really, it can be attracted. And what does that mean? Definitely that means we need to also really understand that a lot of things are to be investigated, and a lot of things need to be now carried out, because if at all we're not doing that, then definitely that will mean a lot. And Ramurizi highlighted that both videos lack crucial details, such as how the individuals obtained the drug and how they could be also really contacted for further investigation solely to this matter in there. And that is where we are saying National Drug Authority, which is the body, managed to make sure that the drugs also that hit the market are first of all one that are not also dangerous to the people in there, because if at all these drugs are very bad, and that is also where at the end of the day I feel may be very bad, because if at all we are putting drugs that also are very much dangerous, we are going to be worsening the risk of these people, because many people resort to these drugs because of the pain that they're going through. And now if at all we are seeing such drugs already and such claims, then it means that people are not going to be having trust in these drugs. And that means NDA, the body, managed to also make sure that the drugs that has hit the market are first of all the ones that are very much safe in there, do not also really go on in there. And we are saying, much as we are talking about these magnetic drug capsules, which we are still investigating, we need to make sure that the investigations are thorough and also really faster, so that already people are not hit and affected by this dangerous medical pill in there, because I feel it is going to be having a negative repercussions if at all it is not very much well investigated in there. And that is one thing also we are seeing on the past morning. And Ramirez highlighted both videos lack crucial details, and he went on that despite information gaps, that NDA is addressing the concerns raised by these videos in there. And we are saying these investigations must be carried out faster, so that already people do not also really rely on these drugs that may at the end of the day put their lives in danger in there. The drug in question is FADHIL, and the drug in question is FADHIL capsules, which NDA confirms also is duly registered and approved for use after thorough regulatory checks in there. And that is one thing also we are saying, if at all this drug was now first of all investigated and first of all also checked, and how did it hit the market? And this is also where people are now complaining and raising issues also about these drugs in there. And I believe after Tupo, many could be also encountering the same, because one person complained of it causing pain to the wife, and the other also complained that it is magnetic also in nature in there, because it can be attracted by a magnet. And what is inside there is something I do not know, but really the manufacturers also really need to come out to the limelight and also really tell the people and the masses what exactly was also really added onto this drug in there. And the FADHIL capsules contain what we call the carbonyl iron, folic acid, vitamin B12, vitamin C, as well as zinc sulfate are also used also to treat that is iron deficiency anemia, and as vitamin also really, and mineral supplement also really being included. That's on this drug in. And you want the public about what we call that is the potential competitive tactics in the pharmaceutical industry also in there, where some players might attempt to discredit other products also to cause what we call public alarm in there, and that is what we did see in there. And he asked the public to consult healthcare and also the professionals for proper diagnosis and prescription also really in line with current also really treatment guidelines also in India. And he went on to urge and also encouraged reporting any drug also related complaints in there, and that is where we are going to be leaving that discussions in there, because many of the times people do not know what exactly to do. But we are saying, if at all you have any complaints that is also in relation to these drugs, and then you should be able to also report to NDA and also to the nearest medical facility, so that sort of thorough investigations can be carried on these drugs, because we may be talking about this magnetic drug, which is also duly approved by NDA that has hit the market. What about the quacks? Also those people who are also there to do what we call the counterfeit, because counterfeit sometimes we cannot be able to run away from them, and that is why we are saying this drug that which is also being investigated may be what is also the counterfeit, but whoever manufactures the counterfeit is also really where we now need to investigate and find out where the factory is and who is behind the manufacture of this drug that we may say at this moment could be counterfeit. But at the end of the day, we also really saying that the manufacturers still, in my own opinion, need to come out and explain where this drug was manufactured and how it hit the market. Other than that, we are going to be also really facing challenges, because they are mothers, our parents, our grandmothers very, very much rely on what we call drugs because of the pain that sometimes they go through. And this is also really where we're saying issues of drugs also really must be sensitized, because sometimes people buy the drugs from just these drug shops, others from these pharmacies and pharmacies, but they do not also really have the prescription and the right usage for these drugs. And that is why we're saying, if at all you have any challenge, any pain that you're going through, feel free to reach out to the nearest drug outlet with the professional also drug, maybe attendant in there, because at the end of the day, sometimes these drug outlets are first of all being run by people who are not professionals. At the end of the day, that is already going to be challenging for them to also give you and also give you the right prescriptions. And that's why we're saying, if at all you have any challenge that you're going through, feel free to move to the nearest drug shop or nearest medical facility, so that already you get the right channels and also the right advice on what drug to swallow for what kind of pain, because sometimes people feel that Panadol is actually the right drug for everything. And that's why we're saying sensitization and education of the masses about certain drugs is the way to go, because if at all we are not going to be sensitizing and educating them, then that is going to be quite unfortunate for them to move from that tendencies, or of what I may say of not having enough knowledge about the drugs. And that is where I really feel I need to talk to the masses about it, because at the end of the day, I feel somebody who is watching us right now could have swallowed Panadol yesterday just for headache, and somebody out there could just be swallowing maybe for chest pain without necessarily going to medical facility. And still, I want to say, if at all you having any pain, before you move maybe to buy the drugs, you must first of all seek for medical attention from the nearest medical facility, and that will be able to sort of spare your life from issues of such magnetic capsule pills or any other form of pain. And that is where we are stopping with the discussions for this first half of the first hour, and we are going to be taking yet another short commercial break. And when we bounce back, we still have lots more prepared for you on the show. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Bellingham, Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBA Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by Star Times Solar. Star Times Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBA Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by Star Times Solar. Star Times Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back. There was this conversion. I want to take this opportunity now before to first welcome you back from the short commercial break. But there has been this conversation that has always been there. That is already some time back about the Econ City that was being planned. And this was already where the musician came into this country. And also he was said to be allocated land for building his Econ City in there. And what does that mean? Because the American, what we call the Senegalese also based artist, who is from Senegal, by the way, also really jetted in the country with his wife and met also the head of state and that first lady in there. And many people had actually said that he will be given land that is for the establishment of his own city. But now we are seeing yesterday that the surveyors of the land that is also really being given also being pushed away by the locals, by the residents of that area, saying that this is the ancestral land and there is no way they're going to move away from there. And that is where I also really ask myself, did these people get maybe the land through the right channels? And were they also really, first of all, told about the same land? Did government actually know that this land belongs to people? And this is already where we're saying now the surveyors yesterday were pushed away. And what does that mean? It means also this is going to be pushing a negative image, first of all, to the investor himself and whoever also really would wish to invest also really in this city in there. And that is where the planned boundary opening of disputed land in Mpunge sub-county, that's Mukono district, flopped yesterday also after angry residents turned up in big numbers and resisted the process in there. And the ownership of the piece of land that is measuring about, that's 645 hectares, is claimed by also the 10,000 residents and the Uganda Land Commission, who is also saying that this land belongs to government in there. And last month, the government of Uganda also issued the boundary, also opening up also notification to the residents, indicating that the boundary also opening date for July 11th in there, and that is what that's what didn't go on well yesterday. And however, the exercise did not take place following resistance solely from the aggrieved residents who blocked the team of surveyors solely from doing their work, and that's on the contested land in there. And what does that mean? It means something that should have not gone well somewhere, and that is where the residents also really feel aggrieved and feel they cannot be able to also really allow the process to go on. And that's where we also did see the residents vowing not to allow any exercise to go on the land until also really and Minister of Lands so intervenes to resolve the matter rather than being treated like non-Ugandans in there. And that's where the concern of these ordinary people also really came through, and that's why we're saying government first of all needs to come back on the land and find out who exactly owns this piece of land that we are talking about. And the Yazid Senkali, a resident that's of Sanga, said it was unfair for the exercise to take place without also really consulting them. In Sankali went on to further note that they secured titles from the district land board, and also wondered why Uganda Land Commission also really was opening boundaries without consulting the district land board in there. And leading the surveyors, Arthur Akanga, assured the angry residents solely that the reason for their visit was to open boundaries to the land, and also really their intention is not to evict anybody, but only to find out whether there is unoccupied land that the government can be able to solely use all that in there for this what we call the Econ City in there. And this is what we did see happening. And the genesis of this impasse can be traced, that is way back in 2021 when Senegalese American singer who is known as that's Bandara Ekon Tiam came to Uganda and also really earned President Museveni's promise to build, that is what we call a futuristic city in there. And that is where now we are yet falling upon this land where this city is also really going to be established, because the matter is also really now a matter that also should be given keen attention, because if that's not done so, we are going to be seeing so many people being evicted, which may not be right, because you really know sometimes what goes through evictions, because in evictions you are forced to leave that kind of land, that piece of land that you have ever been there for quite a long period of time. And that's where sometimes we see people wailing, and really to avoid people crying, avoid seeing people in pain, avoid seeing people in agony, we need to also really make sure now that this matter should be given keen interest. And that's also really where we're saying this matter should be also really a matter that must be of interest. And that's why we're saying the government of Uganda, before carrying out any evictions or maybe even carrying out, because doing the surveys, definitely sometimes the people may feel that this is not right. And that's why we're saying the surveyors should first of all hold on, then government must go on in there and have the talks with these people as they have requested. The Minister for Lands also really should be having also the initiative of moving up the grassroots and talk to these people. And this is also really where at the end of the day that we'll be able to solely address the concern of what we're talking about in here. And this is also really where people should not be able to be thrown out before being compensated, because if at all that's going to be done so, then people are going to be in pain, people are going to be losing property, and which I feel may not be right in there. And that's where we're leaving that discussion aside. If at all you have anything that you need to front forward, use our comment generating platforms. For those of you watching us via Facebook, feel free to drop it in there. And for those of you watching us via YouTube, feel free to also still drop it in there. And then for those who got the link via our WhatsApp platform, also still feel free to drop it in there, and I will be in position to also still read through your comments. What about those on X, formerly known as Twitter? You can also really still as well drop your comment in there, where you can tag our Twitter handle, which is at West Nile Television, and still we shall be in position to also really read through some of your comments in there. And that is where we're also not limiting our discussions to whoever may be watching us via maybe the StarTimes, that's also really on channel 477. you can just rush out to those numbers that are also scrolling on your screens, or else still use our social media platforms, and we shall be still in position to check through those comments in there. And as we move on with the show, let's leave that discussion in relation to the Econ City aside, and now let's look at what is happening elsewhere, where a court has dismissed fraud charges against Kampala Land Board. This is still related to land, also where the boss, who has been identified as Balondemu, has now been a freed man, and that's also where we are seeing now the Buganda Road Chief Magistrates Court has dismissed the fraud case against chairperson of Kampala Land Board, that is Mr. David Balondemu, who was also already in possession, who was also under prosecution in there, and that is what we did see happening also yesterday, where the case came up after hearing on July 11th, when the presiding judge, that's the grade 1 magistrate, that's Miss Winnie Nanchia, was prompted to also dismiss the case after the prosecution failed to present witnesses, also despite also being given the last adjournment in there. And that's what we did see happening, and that means now the man is a free man, and the presiding magistrate FADHIL, the prosecution, is at liberty to also reinstate the case against Balondemu whenever there is ready, also when they are ready to also prosecute him in there. And that means he is still not a free man until the last hit on the nail in there. And that's also the one thing we shall be able to follow up on, as Mr. Balondemu has now been facing charges of alleged fraud in connection also with obtaining more than shillings 2 billion. That is already from a United States-based firm, that is KG Unlimited LLC, together with his co-accused, that's Mr. Joseph Ibona, an accountant, that's at Bloom Advocates Limited, and another lawyer that's identified as Eric Geoffrey Mkwe in there. And that means also the matter is now a matter out of court for the moment, and that's also where, if at all any person also comes out, because witnesses were not there, and that's where this case was also first of all put aside in there. And that means if at all still anybody arises with also has to testify as witness, then this matter also may still be reinstated back in the courts of law in there. It's alleged that between the months of November 2022 and April 2023 at Bloom Advocates Limited, that's at Kingdom Kampala building in Kampala City, Kawesa and Balondemu, Mkwe, Ibona, and others still at large had intentions also to defraud also the money worth billions, that is from KG Unlimited LLC, by pretending that they were going to award it contract of supplying what we call agricultural drone sprayers and fertilizers from Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries, whereas that did not go on in there. And the state contends that the 4 accused persons and others still on run also conspired to commit a felony by obtaining also the said amount of money falsely from the American firm in there, and that is what we did see in there. In the second case, Mr. Balondemu was granted also the bail in another case in October 2023, after he was also charged for allegedly defrauding Korean investor of shillings 2 billion in a gold scam in there. And Mr. Balondemu is jointly facing the charge with Jeff Mugisha, 34-year-old, and also that is also Godfrey Maviri, 38, both also self-employed in there. And that's also where this man is now facing charges of billions and billions of money for defrauding. And what does that say? It means really thorough investigations must be also carried out on this gentleman, because if at all he still has these cases of worth billions, and somebody may not be able to understand billions is, and many millions of millions entering those billions, and that means somebody just takes it like that. Definitely this calls for thorough investigations, because this is not a small amount of money, and this is only where money that could be able to be used to also change out a lot of issues here and there. That means people now must also desist from tendencies of engaging in these dubious activities, because at the end of the day, somebody out there just like this man who is currently also really under scrutiny may also take advantage of you. And that's why we're saying people must avoid and desist from tendencies of entering in those deals that may land them into trouble. And I really feel that is actually something that may be able to go on, and that's why I also really want to say people must avoid tendencies of, first of all, wanting to take the laws and also into their hands. And that's why we're saying, if at all you want to enter in any business, first of all, find out what kind of business it is going to be also maybe landing into. Is it a genuine business? Is it a genuine deal? And that's why we're saying carry out your checks first before you enter such deals, because at the end of the day, if you're not doing that, so then you may land in trouble in there, and you may lose millions of money, and that may not necessarily be right for you in there. And that's one thing also we did see happening in there. As we move on with the show, so many issues also continue to unfold. And now let's talk about health, where we are seeing measles outbreak recently in the country, and now the virus has also been detected in Kanungu district in there, and that means the Kanungu district officials have confirmed measles outbreak in the 2 villages that parts of Nyabirehe and Rukarara in Chihembe sub-county, in Kanungu district also in there, and persons suffering from measles disease also have maybe symptoms such as severe pain, dry cough, and what we call runny nose, sore throat, inflamed eyes, and also tiny white spots with bluish white centers on the red also the background found inside the mouth, on the inner lining of the cheek also in there. If at all you have any of these symptoms, trust me, you need to rush out to the nearest medical facility for the check. And that's already, you do not also detect the disease later on in there. And that is what we did see in there. And the Kanungu District Health Officer, Dr. Birungi Mtahonga, also confirmed that on July 11th, in an interview also with journalists, also in the and citing a perspective or a positive case of a child who died. Also, that's in Kiembe sub-county in Kanungu district, also in there, and that's why we're saying parents must make sure that they do not keep the diseases or secret in there. They must make sure they rush out and also really report diseases of such caliber in there, so that also really nobody is left out in there. And that's one thing also we are saying must be given keen attention, and people must also really make sure that issues of this disease, because if at all you also do not want to lose your life or the life of your child, then make sure that they are vaccinated, make sure that they also really get the right channels and so they have the disease also being avoided in that. And as parents, we are the ones to protect the young ones from also dying as a result of this disease in there. And that's quite simple. You must make sure that you get the dose. And currently the government of Uganda is actually rolling out that mass vaccination against the disease, and that is also really something which I really want to call upon each and everybody to take advantage of. And we may be talking about it being in Kanungu and somebody in Zombo, somebody in also in other parts of the country, in Bulisa, also really still could be having the same challenge of this disease in there. And we are saying wherever you are, it could be in Hoima, it could be in the entire Bunyoro sub-region or West Nile or Ankole, wherever, we are saying you must make sure that our children, and I mean the city and the future leaders of tomorrow, are first of all vaccinated against this disease, so that already nobody will be able to die as a result of this disease. And if at all you got the disease, still seek for medical attention. If at all you got the vaccine, you still have to go on and find out how and what exactly you can do. And that's also really something I feel may also really be in position to also really spare us from the disease in there. And that's one thing I really want to leave the discussion with aside, and I feel it is the way to go. And yet some of the challenges in controlling the outbreak include people using herbs, and we are saying you should desist from tendencies of thinking that you are going to be getting medical attention from the shrines or from the herbs also in there, because sometimes these witch doctors are really compromising what we call a medical fraternity, because their activities sometimes I feel very much bad, because they know that this is a disease that they cannot be able to treat, but somebody comes to their shrines, they still want to advocate and also want to put for administer drugs on these people. And we are saying these are tendencies that must not be given attention. And this is also where the herbalists, also under the umbrella body, need to really come out and also caution their members against also the tendencies of wanting to deal with medical issues in there. And I really feel that is the way to go, because if at all they not also continue to give attention to these issues, then we're going to be losing so many lives. And I feel that is actually one thing that may be very, very much dangerous. And that's the lives of our young people, and these are the future leaders of tomorrow. And that's where we're saying you must desist from tendencies of wanting to administer drugs on behalf of the medical fraternity. And this goes to the witch doctors, this goes to the herbalists, and that is only where we're saying avoid treating this disease and symptoms like this. Refer, tell this people to go to the medical facility, tell them when it is still early, rather than first wanting to fidget and obtain money from these people. And that is where we're saying if at all we are going to be landing on you, a police should do its work in terms of sort of making sure that you are kept behind bars. And that's where we are leaving that aside, because the measles boiler is currently on the outbreak, and I feel something needs to be done. And that's also really something I feel at the end of the day that may also really be in position to also really avoid, and we must also really avoid also really getting the disease in there. And that's why we're saying we must also really avoid that. And yesterday we did see President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni commissioning the Spiro electric motorbikes, and this is a good gesture. That's also to protecting our environment in there. And I feel this is the way to go, because sometimes fuel also really comes also with its own challenges that is on the environment. And I feel this is the way to go, because if that is not done so, and that is really going to be very, very much dangerous. And that's where we're seeing also the investors being given some leave, or that's sort of to do, that's their importation under done tax, and that's really where they're going to be doing a tax-free importation, which the president already gathered in there for a period of time, where he asked these people to also make sure that also upon some months they now must resort to assembling the motorcycles in here. And I really feel this is the way to go, because this is going to be creating employment opportunity for our young people people who are also in there. And that's also where this motorcycle, which to me is going to be efficient, which is rechargeable in there, and that is also where issues of fuel may also be avoided in there. And remember, the fuel price in Uganda, we are likely to witness an increase. According to a report we did see recently, Uganda is likely to be hit also by an increase in fuel, despite the global drop in the prices of fuel because of our deal with Kenya, which is also something that may not be able to be right in there. And that's also where we are following up on that discussion. And we did see also the President Yoweri Museveni has yesterday commenced and also commissioned Spiro electric motorcycles operations during an event also held at National Leadership in Chankwanzi. And the delegation also from Spiro was led by Mr. Odrek Rwabogo, the chairperson of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development in there. And Spiro is an electric bike producing company in Africa, recognized for its impact on sustainable transportation and formerly known as MSF Auto Electric. The company has also deployed over 15,000 electric bikes and facilitated more than 9 million battery swaps across countries like Benin, Togo, Kenya, Rwanda, and now in Uganda. And that's also something we are going to be also seeing happening in there. And President Museveni, who hailed also and praised Spiro for the new technology, remarked also that this is good news and the electric bikes are better than our traditional ones, which require petrol in there. And that is one thing we did see in there. And the release from presidential press unit said that the president also emphasized Uganda's dedication to adopting that's environmentally friendly alternatives. And Rose Malango, the chairperson of Taimani Africa Knowledge Center, also informed the president about that about 500 electric bikes already in the country and operational in Kampala, with only 150 also them sold in the first week in there. And that is one thing we did see happening in there. And to make the bikes accessible for border riders, she noted also that there was a payment plan that is also to be taken under installments, and that has also been introduced in there. And Malango further highlighted several advantages of the electric bikes, noting that according to their surveyor, riders appreciate tubeless tires, which eliminate also the recent need for pumping air in there. And that is really a good gesture. And Ms. Malango assured the president that Ugandans already have welcomed the new technology and quickly adapting to it. And I really feel that is actually the way to go. And as she explained, the electric bikes also offer affordable energy and convenience for battery, which also swaps where riders can exchange depleted batteries for charged ones in there. And on the other hand, Spiro's country head, that is Gaurav Amandand, also announced plans to partner with Uganda government, also deploy over 140,000 electric two-wheelers and 3,000 also charge and swap stations across the country by 2028 in there. And Anand also went on to know that Spiro expects to have, that is 35 battery swapping stations in Kampala by the end of this year, noting that the company is set to revolutionize Uganda's transportation landscape also in there. And that is one thing we are seeing on the paper this morning, and we are following up on. And I really, my humble appeal would be that these motorcycles needed only not to remain in Kampala, but they should also be dispersed across the country. I really want to see them in a rural city, as much as we are not seeing very much electric motorcycles in the city yet. But I feel this is the way to go, and embracing what we call the electric motorbikes is actually the way to go, because first of all, they do not produce a lot of noise, and then secondly, they do not consume fuel, which also comes with its own advantage, because sometimes we are facing also, and they're solely contaminating our air by fuel, by also fumes also coming out from our exhaust pipes. And I really feel that is actually going to be also avoided, and this new strategy, which I feel is actually the way to go. And I really want to say we must now take advantage and wait, and this is also where our young people must now start waiting, and other than depending on these other bikes that use fuel, and today, which also is quite expensive. And I really feel charging these motorbikes is actually the way to go, where batteries will be able to be changed, and they will be entirely depending on batteries. I don't know what you can say, and maybe as the viewer, in case you have anything that you really feel that you need to front forward, we shall be in position to solely go through and read through your comment in there. And now let's leave that aside. Let's move on somewhere. Judiciary to recruit 17 Court of Appeal High Court judges is another story that we are seeing on the past morning. I really feel that this is the way to go, and this is something we have waited overdue, because the judiciary has always been hit by what we call case backlog, and I really feel that was resulting from the fewer judges that also the industry is having. And now the institution also is now being also given opportunity to have new judges, which I feel is actually the way to go. And the Judicial Service Commission is now seeking to also recruit 12 High Court judges and 5 justices also of Court Court of Appeal to bridge also the human resource gap at the courts of law for enhanced access to justice in there, and that is actually what we are seeing in the past morning, where Rose Nasari Lukwago, the Judiciary Judicial Service Commission, also Permanent Secretary, also already announced that the vacancies is an advert released as JSC is a constitutional body whose mandate includes identifying sustainable persons of appointment as judicial and non-judicial officers for all levels of court also in there, and that is also really something which I feel is the way to go, because many of times today we have gotten to realize that the judiciary has a lot of cases to handle, but the judges are very few and many people also in there, and that means also sometimes we see the adjournments, and today somebody comes, we say the case has been adjourned because the judge is not there. Tomorrow we come back, I'll still also say that the same issues, that means also beefing up this, the sector is the way to go. I really want to say we need to also have more numbers. Looking at also the magistrates, it shouldn't be at the high court levels only. We also want to see up to the grade 1 magistrate also the courts also being also supported in there, and that's that solely the cases of case backlog can also be also reduced in there, because the courts of law today, I must also inform you, that have been overwhelmed, and that is where today we are seeing so many strategies already of calling for negotiations, or what we call also already discussions already, where the people have to now resolve the matters, and that's already something which now court has asked it to happen, and of recent we have seen also the court promoting that. So that's already issues of such nature can also be addressed, and we have seen also open courts which have often been put in there, and so that people can be able to have dialogues, and I really feel that is the way to go for us to also reduce on the case backlogs that have also really been in there, and that's also where now we want to ask our people to also take advantage and start preparing their documents. And I do understand that also West Nile has a number of officers who qualify for those positions, and we are saying they must now start preparing their papers, they must start preparing their documents, as solely they can be able to sort of tap into those opportunities. And I really feel, if at all any of our people solely appointed in that position, in those positions, that will be able to make us proud. And that's not that Uganda, we are proud of solely our people in there, but we need more. And also that solely our people can also really raise our flag as West Nile sub-region higher, and really that would make us proud as people of this nation, as people of this region. And that's where we are saying supporting this also this group is actually the way to go, and that is where we are going to be continuing and looking at some of the stories elsewhere. We still have lots more, by the way, as our final destination remains 9 o'clock, and after 9 o'clock that's when we are going to be leaving the newsroom, but really we still have 1 hour where we are going to be doing discussions with you. And remember, so many issues continue to happen, and earlier on we also did talk about the installation and welcome of that is the new Archbishop-elect. That's Raphael Pomoni Wakorach, who was received very, very well in Gulu City in there, and that means already he now is officially also in there as we wait for the installation party, and that is also something we did talk about earlier on. We did talk about measles outbreak and so many other issues, but still we are going to be giving you very, very many stories that also in our coming hour, which is also the second hour, which is also our final hour. That's from 8 to 9 o'clock. But for now, we are going to be taking yet another short commercial break as we bounce back shortly. My name is Farish Majid. Stay tuned from wherever you are watching us from.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBA Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by StarTimes Solar. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back from the short commercial break. We are already 3 minutes after our second hour, which is 8 o'clock. That will be taking us through up the hour of 9 o'clock. And remember, we are expecting our guest also where we are going to be giving an insight of what's happening in Kenya. And he will be telling us what exactly that means and how this will be able to address the concerns and also and maybe the issues of the Generation Z group, which also demanded for the reforms, first of all, not to be pushed, and also are now advocating for the president to step down. But yesterday we did see him sacking members of the cabinet, and what exactly that means, the guest also will be joining us anytime from now to also maybe understand, also make us understand what exactly that means. But we are going to be following up on this discussion later on. And now let's move on. What's happening elsewhere? First Lady appreciates partnership with Saudi Arabia for development, and that's something also we are seeing on the past morning, where the First Lady, who also doubles as the Minister of Education and Sports, Ms. Janet Katawha Museveni, has expressed gratitude for the leadership of also between the government of Uganda and the Saudi Fund for Development in India, and particularly appreciated the financial support that is towards establishment of 5 technical vocational education and also TVET also institutions in the country in there, and that is also what we did see happening in there. And Wednesday this week, which was only on 10th of July, with this the First Lady meeting also the CEO of Saudi Fund Development, that is Mr. Sultan Abdurrahman Al Marshad, heading also a delegation that included the ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Uganda, that's also the Mohammed bin Khalid Falauda, also going on in there, and that is also what we did see happening in there. And remember, people who come to this country, definitely they have to support the country in one way or the other, where the meeting was held at the State House Lodge in Chankwanzi district, also where on sidelines of the cabinet retreat, that is of the national leadership retreat also in there, and that's what we did see happening, where the Saudi Fund Development has supported project worth, that is $12 million, aiming at expanding access to technical vocational education and also training Uganda by establishing and equipping 5 new technical institutes in there. And these include Nyamango Technical Institute, that's in Chenjojo district. We do have Liantone Technical Institute, that's in Liantone district, and Bukomera Technical Institute, that's in Chiboga district, Bokedia Technical Institute, that's in Bukeda district, and Amelo Technical Institute, that's in the Ajuman district, where West Nile also really benefited as part of that in there. An immediate press release from the First Lady's also the office, Janet Katawha Museveni, requested the Saudi Arabia Fund for development not only focus on infrastructure collaboration, but also to consider supporting the training of trainers for the technical schools in Uganda in there. And that is what we did see happening in there, where the ambassador of Saudi Arabia to Uganda responded affirmatively, also saying the training is now already considered also we are going to arrange that in there. And that's what we did see happening, where the CEO of Saudi Fund for Development expressed gratitude, that's the First Lady, for the warm also and friendly reception given to him and the delegation, as he assured the First Lady of their commitment to open up training of institutes that's also in Uganda. And that's something also we did see happening in there. And I feel more technical institutes being established in the country would actually really help in terms of addressing the issues of unemployment, because sometimes the people also go through school but they don't have the skills, and they really find it very, very much difficult to also really apply and also really seek for these opportunities, because the opportunities are fewer compared to the numbers of the jobs in there. That means skilling would actually be the way to go, because after somebody obtaining the skills, definitely they would also really want to use it also really in certain activities in there. But we're saying that is not the only thing that we need to do. Much as people also really overskilled, it may become a challenge in there, and that is one thing also really I feel I need to put forward, because skilling many people without also really giving them the necessary opportunities may also really become a challenge in there. And that is where we're saying people now should also not only think about skilling alone, but what about the practicability, a bit of it all? Because as somebody out there may be skilled, because I really see so many of the schools that are emerging. Look at also these regional centers that are being established. But where are the people going to is something also we need to interest ourselves in and make sure that we understand. After skilling these people, where next do they go? Is really something also that we need to understand in there, because these skills, yes, they're doing a good job, but we also need to turn the focus on now. Do they have the necessary capital to also really start? Do they have the equipment? Is also another thing that also we need to always ask ourselves, because we are seeing them also be releasing students each and every time, but definitely that is something also we are not seeing in there. And now let's look at some of the stories happening this morning. Activists raised 13 grounds to reverse gay bill gains is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, where gay activists have listed 13 grounds to challenge the Constitutional Court judgment, and also really that upheld the bigger part of the controversial anti-homosexuality bill of 2023, also in there, whose maximum punishment for aggravated homosexuality is death by hanging, and that's something we are seeing on the past morning. And now the grounds of the memorial of appeal we are filed also by 22 parties yesterday before the Supreme Court in there, where the gay activists also claim that the anti-gay law also that largely also remains in force was enacted without what we call meaningful and adequate consultations with the participation of the public also in there, and that is also something we are seeing. And they also contend that the justices of the Constitutional Court erred also in law and fact also that when they found that the private members bill also that was raised by MP Asman Basoliri was introduced, and the Anti-Homosexuality Act of 2023 also did not also impose a charge on the consolidated fund or any other public fund in contravention of Article 93A of subsection 1 of the Constitution in India. They also claim that the conduct of the Parliament of Speaker they also claim that the conduct of the Parliament Speaker, that is Anita Mongo, was biased due to her alleged public proclamations and support of the MP Basoliri's bill that was eventually enacted into law in there. And that is also really where they feel this matter also really should be challenged. And are they going to be challenging this anti-gay law again? Definitely that is something also really we are following up on. And as for now, as Uganda would not also accept that. It is also really a criminal offense also to go on and commit these activities there, because it is criminal in nature for you to also really go on and now commit what we call the Homosexuality Act, because this is something which to me is against our culture, is against our norms, and that is where some people also really came out and condemned it. And that's also something at the end of the day which I feel must be given keen attention in there. And on May 26th of this year, last year, President Museveni signed the anti-gay law into bill, kicking also really what we call up a storm locally and in Western world, with some countries and donors closing the cash taps also in Uganda in there. And today we are facing a lot of challenges as a result of the rejection of the anti-homosexuality law, and today we are seeing sanctions, and our leaders are receiving sanctions. What does that mean? Is also something that also really could be out there. Somebody may be interested in understanding, but we are saying as Ugandans for now, we have not yet permitted what we call the anti-homosexuality law in our country, in that we have condemned it, and whoever is going to be engaging it, you are risking your life also already for death in there, because you may be subject to hanging, and that's where we're saying you must now avoid cases of that. And what did Museveni say? Museveni stand on homosexuality last year was that Museveni said the anti-gay law that also he ascended into bill has also misinterpreted, and he clarified also that the anti-homosexuality bill of 2003 forbids recruitment by homosexuals of non-gay people into the practice of homosexuality, exhibition, and also what we call promotion of sexual orientation and performing homosexual sex on another person in there. That means that's already you who is going to be interested in what we call same sex also are in there. Definitely you risk also being subjected to also what we call death by hanging in there. And that's why we're saying, instead of you being attracted to a lady, or a lady as a lady, instead of you being attracted to a fellow lady, that is really wrong. Be attracted to a man, and the man be also attracted to a man, that is really wrong. You must be attracted to a lady, and that's also where we're saying Adam and Kawa. Definitely, that's also where we are also talking about it. And that's one thing also we need to also make sure that also we continue fronting forward. And as a national, and as somebody who loves our cultures, we are saying that is really, really wrong, and we must condemn it in the strongest terms. At the end of the day, that would also make us feel that we are living in a country that also belongs to us, and our members of parliament also did take that stand, and which we also agreed upon them, and we also really must say that now that is also something at the end of the day we must also really continue talking about. And let's leave that aside, let's move somewhere. And on the monitor this morning, Tayeba clears air on generator expense is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, where the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, that is Mr. Thomas Tayebwa, has come out and clarified on the government purchased generator at his residence, that is in Chigo on Entebbe Road in there. And in June 2024, there was public also uproar, especially on social media, when the government brought up that is also really the issue of the power generator, which now is also really something we must also really talk about. And Mr. Tayebwa explains that the generator was bought for him as a way of boosting also his security after an incident that left his family shaken up in December 2023 in there. And that is also something we are now talking about on as we move on with the show. And he added that his family members woke up also to find out that some of the property went missing out, and looking on at the CCTV footage, it was an intruder who had climbed also over the fence and accessed the house without also through the windows in there. And besides the incident, his solar panels could also not be found because the security system also really was interrupted, and somebody also disappeared with the property in there. And that is also something I feel I need to also remind you of as we move on with the show. Remember, in the next few minutes, we are going to be joined by our guest, LEMERIGHA FADHIL. He will be telling us and also making us understand, has now RUTO considered to the pressure of the Generation Z in Kenya? Definitely will be here to explain that for us. And that's only where I want to ask you as the viewer to keep it locked. That's to West Nile TV, as he is already here with us, and we are going to be also ushering him in anytime from now, and he will be telling us that also later on. But for now, let's continue to move on and look on some of the stories happening on this morning. And that's only something I feel I need to also keep you reminded of, and this is on the Nile Post. So many issues also continue to happen in the country, and remember it being the 7th month, and today we are just at 12 days, and that means anytime from now we are going to be clocking 2 weeks, that is into the 7th month. But the question is, what have you done? What have you done so far? Is also another story that we are seeing on our memories, and we must also keep it locked to our memories, and we must always ask ourselves on individual basis of what we want to do and what we want to become. And definitely that is already something at the end of the day that will be keeping us moving, and that will also change our lives. And that is also where, to the ordinary person out there, if at all you have received the monies, definitely you must make sure that you utilize this money properly. And this is the PDM money, and also want to take the initiative to also remind people, whoever has gotten the PDM money and the Myoga monies, and whoever is yet to get, we must make sure that this money has an impact on our economy and has an impact on our lives. And that's also something I feel at the end of the day we cannot be able to exclude in there. And Petroleum Authority reassures on steps to mitigate oil spill is another story that we are seeing on the past morning, where the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, abbreviated as PAU, has assured the country of steps it has made also and more to be taken to make and mitigate the potential oil spill in future in there. And Uganda is aiming to produce, that is also by 2025, around 1.4 billion barrels from 2 oil fields in Tilenga, and also the larger one operated by France's Total Energies, and Kingfisher are interested to be China National Offshore Oil Company, also corporation in there. And that's something we are seeing, where they will be extracting our oil. And during a meeting with the Ambassador Richard Carbonero, head of Regional Economic Cooperation Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, PAU Director of Environmental Health and Safety, Joseph Kabsheshe, said they have already also have in place a robust, detailed and comprehensive national oil spill contingency plan, which is also really needs to be shared with the neighboring countries in there. And that is also something we are seeing as efforts already underway, because many times we have seen activists, and recently we did see some also serious Uganda also claiming that they want also the government of Uganda to make sure that these issues are also giving keen attention, because the way this oil is going to be extracted may also endanger the environment. And now we are seeing efforts are being developed to make sure that this does not go on. And the magnitude of harm from oil spill is determined by many factors, which among others include as amount and type of oil, location, season, weather, and actions taken to clean up and the oil spill. And that's something we are seeing, and now this is already going to be avoided in there. And highlighting the inherent needs for transboundary cooperation, Dr. Kabshesi said it was critical to collaborate with the neighboring countries that could be affected by the oil spill events in there. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda is a regulatory responsible for monitoring and regulating the exploration and development and production of the oil resources in the country. And power ensures the petroleum activities in the country are being conducted in a manner that promotes sustainable development, environment protection, and economic growth in the Ambassador Carbonero expressed support for enhanced regional partnerships, adding that it was necessary to have a cohesive multinational approach to control the oil spillovers in that management, which only safeguards also the environment, but also ensures sustainable development and mutual prosperity in there. And that is also where I want to leave that discussion aside with, because the oil which is only going to be extracted from Uganda is going to be benefiting each and everybody. I'm not going to be a beneficiary alone, be it directly or indirectly, but for those who are living in those areas where these oils have been detected, definitely employment opportunities and service delivery is expected to improve in there, because the roads must also be developed. But really the challenge also is that they're going to be encountering a lot of challenges, and that's where we are saying, be it also positive or negative, life must go on. And that's solely where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside with. And I hope also you, as the viewer who is joining us right now, you also have something that you have picked, maybe from me or LEMERIGHA who is yet to come. At the end of the day, that is already something which we shall be also sharing our ideas on with. But let's get to move on happening, and also still seeing some of the stories happening on the past this morning. We still have lots more. Remember, it being a Friday, we are entering the weekend, and also always as entering weekend, so many activities continue to happen, and that is where we are saying people must make sure that they celebrate responsibly. And celebrate responsibly is actually the way to go, because if at all that's not going to be done so, we are going to be also still seeing our people and also our lives being put in danger. And I really want to say people must now avoid those tendencies, and that would also make them risk their lives. And I feel that is the way to go, because if at all that's not done so, who is going to be at the danger? It means that me and you is going to be in danger, and that means also we must make sure that these issues that we talk about do not only remain here, but we need to extend them and also tell the people that also much as we are talking about these issues, then definitely we are going to be also affected by these issues, and that would also make sure also we change our lives. And today we are having a lot of people who are as inspiration in the community. They must also make sure that they support the government in terms of making sure that there's mindset change, because many of times people have been facing challenges just because of mindset, and which I feel also really must be given attention, because today look at the monies people are missing and also spending on unnecessarily in there. Sometimes it's also really because of mindset, because they feel the mind also needs to be changed in there. And that is one thing also where I will be leaving the discussion in there. And I feel there's more that needs to be done. And what does that mean? It means that me and you have something to do. And what exactly is there for us to do? It means we must join hands in terms of changing society in there. And who exactly is going to be doing that? It means you who is watching us right now. You still have something to do in terms of changing that mindset in there, and that is where we are going to be leaving that discussion aside. And now let's look at the story of the Molly Katanga, who is already being investigated for the murder of the husband. And now we are seeing the Katanga daughter beg to record the case also as accident, and says police also that's something we are seeing on the past morning, where Henry Katanga murder case was on trial on Wednesday, 10th of July, and that's something we did see enter the second day with the senior police officer Peter Ogwang telling court that also the deceased daughter Patricia Kakwanza sought help also from him to record the statement as an accident, and that's something also we did see happening in there. And the trial in which Katanga's wife Molly is being accused of murdering her husband kicked also off at about 10:16 a.m., where Molly is facing trial together with daughters Kakwanza and Martha Nkwanzi, as well as George Amanyire, a domestic worker, and Charles Otai, who is a nursing officer in there. And there was heated argument between also the defense team and prosecution over call data also that also defense lawyers gave to one witness, that is Timothy Nyangweso, who said Katanga was in his uncle to ascertain whether he spoke to Nkwanzi on the day Katanga also died in the Nyangweso. Confirmed that number is not among also those listed on the call. That log that also Nkwanzi was on November also that also they talked to on the fateful day where Katanga was murdered in the case is before that Justice Isaac Mwata as Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions Samali Wokoli, and Chief State of Attorneys Jonathan Mugwanya and Anna Kiza are prosecuting the matter, and I really feel that is also really something which we need to talk about, as the defense team consists of Peter Kabatsi, Mark Dusman, also Kabega, and Jet also Tumweba, Bruce Musinguzi, and Elson Karuhanga, who are also really on the matter in there, and that means we need to do something which will also address this matter in there, and that's really something which must also really expect justice. If at all these two murdered their father or their husband in there, because these people who are being investigated, we have among others the daughter. What does that tell about the society we are living in today? It means that we are living in a very bad society. But who is exactly like to change the society to make sure that the society we are living in is actually one that is good? Definitely we must join hands and solely tell the people now that we are one, and also if at all we have any issues, we must make sure that we use the right channels, because if at all we are not using the right channels, that is going to be quite unfortunate, and I feel at the end of the day that would also bring a lot of challenges, and that's also where people may be able to land themselves in the trouble and also in prison, just like this family that is now battling court case in there. And I feel that is not right, because really sometimes court cases do not take a short period of time. Definitely that's where we're saying we must now avoid those issues, and that is one thing also that will be able to bring us the development that we want. And I feel that is actually the way to go as we get to move on with the show, and that is one thing also really which we feel must and keen attention in there. And as we get move on with the show, remember so many issues continue to happen, and we are yet unfolding on many issues which I must also really inform you of, and I really can't be able to sort of leave them out in there as we get move on with the show. And so many of these issues are yet also to be unfolded, and I really feel it is the way to go if at all we are going to be also having challenges also which we may be able to want to take the laws in our hands. That would be very much bad. As we get move on with the show, remember we are just left with a very few minutes. But in the few minutes later on, we are going to be joined by LEMERIGHA FADHIL still, who will be telling us of what's happening in Kenya. Generation Z, have they succeeded? And does it think that this is going to stop? Is also really something which I really need to keep you reminded of as we get to move on with the show. We are just left with 7 minutes to start off with the discussions, and in these 7 minutes, we still also have a lot more that we need to talk about as we get move on with the show. And later at 9 o'clock, the news bulletin Lubarati with Fete Manuel will be coming through, and that's already where for those who speak Lubarati, it is actually the news bulletin you shouldn't miss each and every Monday. Saturdays in there, because the news bulletin starts from Mondays until Saturdays, and that's also where he is here to keep you informed, and the team and the team behind us also as well are there to also keep you in the know of what's happening in the society in there. And that is where we are going to continue with the discussions, as we still have lots more happening in the country. And today, remember, so many issues continue to happen in the country, which also we shouldn't also leave out, also to let you know of as the viewer, because we are there to keep you informed, entertained, and educated as well. And that is only something where, if at all you have anything to put forward, feel free to drop it on our comment section in there. And now let's look at some of the stories still within judiciary. Judiciary devises new methods to unlock trillions stuck in court cases. Is another story that we are staying on the past morning, where the judiciary is devising alternative dispute resolution methods to unlock what we call trillions tied up in court litigations in there. And today, so many people have a lot of issues and a lot of cases in the courts of law, which are taking long. Others have died even without getting justice, and that means the cases are overwhelming. And that's only what calls for alternative dispute resolution, where these folks only have to come out and sit together. And the crucial details we are set out during a meeting that the judiciary also held with representative of program institutions and development partners yesterday, also July 11th, at the Court of Appeal in Kampala, where the meeting also was chaired by Herbert Arnaitwe, the Assistant Commissioner Director of Community Service and the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which also where the key issues also that arose from the meeting include us need to integrate traditional approaches, that is to dispute resolution, also that's to formal justice system to unlock funds in commercial and land cases also in there. Because if you look at what's happening within land cases today, this is actually where many cases are being overwhelming. This one has sold my land, this one has entered my boundaries, this person bought my land illegally. These are the cases also which are also there at the courts of law, and that's where the judiciary has been overwhelming. And I feel also adding more judicial officers will be very well. And I really want to see at one time our own people also being also in those positions, and which also I want to see them also doing their work very much faster without wasting any time in there. Now the dispute resolution is actually as an alternative way also to reducing the case backlog, which I really feel the members of the public must embrace. But sometimes, as we are seeing people in the communities, they matters must be addressed at the courts of law, which is really wrong because you are facing a challenge with your neighbor. Why don't you take advantage of cultural leaders? Why don't you take advantage of the opinion leaders to make sure also really that justice prevails in resolving our matters in there, other than resorting to courts of law? Yes, we are saying it is a matter of court, but sometimes we can be able to solely resolve the issues by our means. And that means if at all I have any issue with my neighbor, what should I do? Doesn't mean that should I rush to court? We are saying no. Make sure that this matter is resolved first of all locally, and if at all it fails, that is when and also where you should now think about reporting the case to maybe to police and also the courts of law for further hearing in the solely just can be able to prevail. But we are saying where there's an opportunity for these matters to be locally resolved, we need to do so because court processes sometimes really take long, and at the end of the day, that is where we are also talking about. And recently the Chief Justice Owini Dolo implored judicial officials also to embrace alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediations and also arbitration and conciliation, also and negotiations to resolving also disputes, saying it enhances access to justice in there. And court mediation is a private process also where a neutral third party helps the parties involved in discussing also and trying to resolve the dispute, whereas also there can be mediation, the process can remain voluntary, and also in that the parties are not required to come up with an agreement. And I really feel that is actually the way to go because of the overwhelming nature of the judicial nature in there. And Owini Dolo said judiciaries may not address the ever-growing systems, that's the case backlog, by not only also using the courts of law, and he emphasized the need that is to expand the use of ADR, which also really says will help to regenerate the traditional system of dispute resolution. And in spite of the process, a justice system needs a report in 2016 revealed that the courts and lawyers are marginal to the experience of the day-to-day justice system needs of the people of the Uganda, and that's something that we also really must also embrace. In the report revealed that less than 5% of the dispute resolution takes place, that's in the courts of law, and less than 1% of the cases are also really done by the lawyers in there, and that is also really on the individual basis. I really feel that is the way to go, because today neighbors are having issues. You find the neighbor A is not talking to neighbor B because of land, and the matter is in the courts of law. You find neighbor A sold land to their uncle, and the land is being claimed, and the matter is still in courts of law. What does that mean? And what does that mean? And what needs to be done? Really, the courts of law, I must say, are very, very much overwhelmed by cases of such caliber, which also really land related, and that means also really resolving these matters through overwhelming the judiciary will be able to solely address the issues of case backlog, which many people are really claiming to have justice for, because each and every time they're moving the courts of law, we are seeing an adjustment, an adjournment. And what does that mean? You people are wasting a lot of money. We have cases where people have died without also resolving the matter, and that means the matter being also pursued by people who do not also really understand the cases. We have the lawyers who have lost their lives, and the matter has to be given to another lawyer, and the file has to be transferred to another lawyer, and all this is resulting to the issues of delays in the courts of law. And how best and what should be done to make sure this matter does not go on is actually through embracing what we call the ADR, and I feel that will also really address the matters as we get to move on with the show. This is still a KOKOLIRIKO live show. We are going to be also taking yet another short commercial break that will be ushering us for the next 30 minutes also really for on the issue of what's happening in Kenya, where we are going to be discussing that intensively with our guest LEMERIGHA FADHIL, who will be explaining and what exactly things is happening in Kenya, if at all this generation Z has finally succeeded, and do we see an end to the riots and demonstrations which are currently ongoing, mostly in the capital Nairobi in there, and who will be here to solely explain that for us. For now, let's have this short commercial break as we bounce back shortly. My name is Farish Majid. Up next is our guest, where we are going to be doing that discussion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Mbappe, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Sané, Griezmann, Lewandowski, and many more. Who is your European star? We are very familiar with all German stadia. Trust us to give you the best Euro experience affordably. Catch the matches live on NBA Sport, channel 255 on antenna or channel 199 on Dish Decoder on Star Times. We got your stars. This message is brought to you by StarTimes Solar. StarTimes Solar, more than just solar.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
That the people of Kenya have very high expectations of me. And they believe that this administration can undertake the most extensive transformation in our nation's history. Recent events that necessitated the withdrawal of the finance bill, which will require a review and reorganization of our budget and fiscal management, have brought us to an inflection point. Upon reflection, listening keenly to what the people of Kenya have said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of my cabinet and its achievements and challenges, I have today, in line with the powers given to me by Article 1521 and 1525B of the Constitution and Sections 12 of the Office of the Attorney General's Act, decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the Cabinet Secretaries and Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya, except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. And of course, the Office of the Deputy President is not affected in any way. I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations and other Kenyans, both in public and private, with the aim of setting up a broad-based government that will assist me in accelerating and expediting the necessary, urgent, and irreversible implementation of the program that we have, including other radical measures and programs to deal with the burden of debt, to explore raising domestic resources and revenues, expanding job opportunities, eliminating of government agencies, and slaying the dragon of corruption, consequently making the government of Kenya lean,
Right, welcome back.
inexpensive.
Short commercial break, and now we have heard what the Kenyan president said after dissolving the cabinet yesterday, and that means also really some members of the cabinet were also really, first of all, put aside, retaining a very few, and LEMERIGHA in the next remaining few minutes will be explaining to us what that means, and should we say that he has now given to the pressure of the youth, in your own opinion, and what does that mean to the people of Kenya, and are we going to be seeing the riots stopping?
Thank you for hosting me this morning. And indeed, he has succumbed to pressure and even double pressure, because I thought him already failing to sign the finance bill was enough, but even proceeded to disband his own cabinet, and currently he's working with undersecretaries, which to me is a double jeopardy on his side.
Okay, should we say now we are going to be seeing the riots ending anytime from now? Because this was demand after the finance being thrown out, was that he should step down.
I don't think dissolving the cabinet will be able to solve all the problems, and because they want him out, and I believe some of the resentments come out of last year's general elections, where it is believed that Ruto actually rigged the elections. He did not win them outrightly. It was believed that it was the man from Kisumu, Baba, his name is, his main opponent won the elections, and the fact that the difference between him and his opponent was 200,000 votes. Raila Odinga. People believe that Ruto did not win. Honestly, it was believed that he was assisted, and up to now, no much analysis of the election results from the tally room has been done, and it is believed he also benefited from regional leaders and also the international community. You see, Kenya, much as it is independent, has been under the yoke of the British for a very long time. They acquired a lot of land illegally and forcibly, especially in central Kenya, and it is believed that if Ruto won, then he would be able to return this land to its rightful owners. He would be able to reduce the wealth of those who are holding unfair advantage over majority of the Kenyans. Then he would make the indigenous black man at least have some basic freedoms, especially in as far as socioeconomic transformation is concerned. So those are the fears of the West, and some regional leaders we have in East Africa, who I believe so much helped him to access State House in the last general election.
Honorable, I believe there may be a message that also really we may be able to see under this issue here, because when you talk about this issue of dissolving the cabinet, these cabinet members, some of them have their own followers. I don't know what that will mean to Ruto's leadership also in the next remaining days. And I believe these are people who have been holding those positions, and now they have their own followers, and they have their own pool, which I believe is also going to come with its own maybe positives or negatives. What can you say about that?
It is not just dangerous because people are following, but it even affects his party. Now he wants to go and form a government of national unity, when his party actually won majority seats. The Ruto's party did not have to negotiate with other parties to form government like the ANC in South Africa. So it is going to affect his support, and these people are moving away, and they'll move with the information, and they'll move with the influence, and they'll move away with the support. Therefore, it will affect Ruto to a certain extent, and I think it is dangerous for him as the next general election approaches, and unfortunately for Kenya, Kenya's term of office is only 4 years, unlike Uganda, that has 5 years. So you can basically count 1 year out, and even the second year out, because he is already deep into his administration. Therefore, the fact that Ruto is able to dissolve his cabinet midway or even at the beginning of his term, to me is a crisis on his side, and he's looking for scapegoats for the failure of his policies. And I think he must be licking his wounds, having been declared a non-NATO member by the President of the United States when he visited Washington last month. The fact that IMF was able to impose these policies on Kenya and tell Ruto that he should be able to increase taxes so that he he collects a lot of money from the ordinary Kenyans so that they're able to pay the 80 billion US dollars debt that this country has accumulated all along was a disservice on his side, and it is unfortunate that he has found himself in such a quagmire at the middle of his administration, and especially when it is his first term in office. So you can see that the gods of Kenya are against Ruto, and I believe it is a crisis which he should not have managed this way. I don't think the entire cabinet is responsible for all the mess in Kenya, because those policies are largely economic, and it is the Minister of Finance and those particular technocrats in that ministry who are responsible for some of these things, but not all the cabinet, because not everybody is there to articulate financial policies to govern Kenya. So that is why I find it very interesting and awkward that he is able to break or dissolve the entire cabinet and send people home. He would even have reshuffled his deputy, only that the constitution doesn't allow, because in Kenya, the president and his running mate run concurrently. So you either win or lose together. So he has no way, and I believe he has left Mudavadi because he has very large consistency and he has a lot of experience in Kenyan politics. So he thought keeping him around would be able to make him stabilize, but I think he should have had a selective dismissal or reshuffle, or even not do it all. Yes, people can sit at a table, discuss these issues, and come up with workable solutions.
Yes, Honorable, looking at the riots in Kenya, they were mostly about the finance bill, which people complained about the taxes, and now we are seeing the youths who are mostly behind these riots already pushing and now demanding for the president to step down, and after already him still rejecting the finance bill. Should we say in this reshufflement, if at all these youths are incorporated into the cabinet, will it be able to solve anything?
I don't.
Because that is really where somebody may be thinking, because now he has under that pressure, and now to appease them, he would also really opt to appoint some of them. Are we seeing that?
That could be another viable option to incorporate some youths, but of course not everybody must enter cabinet, and it is not an ordinary thing that you must become a minister. One, you must have had some knowledge in the public administration, and you must have some experience in governance. So I don't know how many of those youths have had experience in national politics, but if there are some who have experience, then he could be able to pick them up. Then let these people go and apply some of the policies they wanted to be done, yes, so that the governance in Kenya is improved. Yes.
Looking at these riots, I was able to see it as some of these groups were actually graduates. We had law graduates also, and lawyers who were actually behind this also explained those ordinary citizens what this finance bill means. I believe those Kenyans who came on the streets, most of them actually understand what this bill was to them and what exactly it will mean to them. I don't know what that speaks of our Ugandan democracy system. What can you say about it? Because what we saw in Kenya is not also maybe something that can happen in Uganda. Basically, what does it speak of our democracy?
Ugandan democracy is a bit different from that of Kenya. Kenya has a liberal democracy. Meanwhile, Uganda has a pseudo-military democracy. You see, Ruto has no military background, but since 1986 we have had a president who first became a rebel in 1971, fought Amin in 1972, thereafter kept on disturbing the Idi Amin government, the entire regime of Idi Amin from 1971 up to 79, and he was able to join forces with the Kikosi Maalum of Obote to fight Idi Amin, and they were able to overthrow him in 1979. And thereafter he became the chairman of the military council. After becoming chairman of the military council, he contested for national leadership. And thereafter, he formed a rebel group, fought in the bush for 5 years, and thereafter, he formed a one-party state. From 1986.
That takes me to the point that also the kind of how these leaders came into power is different. And in Kenya, for Ruto, it's different. But why is that the Kenyans have failed to accept Ruto as their president? Most of them, the youth side, it's now clear that most of them have actually accepted him, and this is also from the demand that they demanded him to step down. Most of the youth.
It is also debatable whether the youth in Uganda have accepted the current president or not. You see, I was still coming to that explanation because I wanted you to understand the background of Museveni and that of Ruto. So Museveni ruled under one-party rule, and he has been a military man, much as he claimed to have retired some time back, but he is fully in control of the military. But Ruto is a civilian. Ruto, therefore, responds to issues the way civilians do.
Okay.
And you remember what happened in November 2020. We have over 100 Ugandans killed just because there was a small riot.
Okay.
If that number could have been killed that time and it was the election time, what would have happened in Uganda where there are no elections and where people are agitating and even enter parliament? I would imagine at least 1,000 people should have been dead by now in Uganda. Therefore, the circumstances and the responses of governments in Kenya and in Uganda are different.
Okay, that brings me to the point now. Should we say it's justifiable for Ruto now to step down, given the fact that the masses are demanding for him to step down, since under the civilian rule, that's what we know and that's what we expect? Is it the right time for him to step down?
I believe the youth are intolerant. I don't think... That's why I'm still opposed to the dissolution of cabinet. Because that is the body that precipitated these policies, and I believe it is them who can also apply medicine to these policies and right the wrongs. So, if I was Ruto, I would not have dissolved cabinet, maybe make a few changes here and there, but majority of the people should be able to remain in office. You see? You know, it is embarrassing that you dismiss your own members of your party with whom you form government. That is failure on Ruto's side. It is an embarrassment even to the electorate who elected these people into parliament and eventually for them to be appointed into cabinet. I would not have dissolved. I also had a cabinet at a small level. We also have our own challenges, you see. But you have not heard me dissolving my cabinet, talking here and there. We handle it internally. We discuss, we talk, we say, let this one be like this, make adjustments here. That is how people change, people understand, people have brains. So to just dismiss people as if they are rocks, even these animals do respond to situations. So I believe those Kenyans who are in the cabinet are educated, are mature, and experienced enough to have been able to make adjustments in order to correct the situation. In any case, Ruto had already made adjustments. He had cancelled the office of the First Lady. He had reduced the cost of public administration, right from the presidents to the cabinet, even up to the regional and local governments. And that way, then the pressure had reduced considerably. Then why not implement what you have already started, but proceed to have heads roll in the cabinet? To me, it is a crisis.
Okay. So in this case, maybe Ruto could have looked at he was not well guided by this under the finance bill, which has also caused him problems, and that could be the reason as to why he's resorted to dissolving the cabinet. But I really say one side video solely saying that this is not the right way to go. So what did you expect Ruto to do under this case here?
Maybe he should have had a cabinet retreat, the same way President Museveni has done recently. Be able to incorporate experts in various areas who would advise cabinet in that retreat, and those recommendations would have been picked by cabinet to be applied. Let me tell you, from today onwards, the political landscape in Kenya is going to change. You never know what some of these were intending. They might even change and begin tarnishing his image. Because yesterday, the Attorney General, who was also dismissed, said Ruto does not take advice. He gave a public interview to a national media. So you can see the impact, the entire, the whole Attorney General in the government are attacking his appointing authority. And you will never know how many are going to spill the beans in the remaining days. And Ruto has never rested. You see, Raila is here, a formidable force. He has a considerable number of MPs in parliament. He's a president in waiting. He's currently advocating to be chairman of African Union.
Okay.
That one gives him another clout.
Okay.
So I would not have rushed to dissolve to dissolve government or to dismiss ministers. To me, no. That was a rushed decision.
Okay, just shortly after his dissolving cabinet, we did see also his opponent, that's Raila Odinga, also coming out to talk to the youths. That was during one of the youth conventions already happening still in Kenya there, where he spoke about these issues, and there's all the issues of also happening that to Kenyans in there, and I believe that is going to be having a repercussion. And I want to understand how this will be impacting, first of all, to his opponents and to himself. What exactly, who has the advantage of this riot that's happening in Kenya? Is it also Ruto that now finally he has agreed to what the youths want? Oh, there's something else.
It is the opposition that benefits. And if Raila was serious about claiming the president next time, I would not expect his party to form a government of national unity with the ruling party of Ruto. He should be able to maintain the pressure currently and sway more people on his side. I don't know whether he wants to contest again or not, but I believe a political party is an institution. It will always produce the candidates. So it will help the party more. But if they go into government of national unity, they'll be able to be compromised by either the failures or the successes of the ruling party. So then they'll not be able to come out clean at the end. And you never know. After the situation has stabilized, Ruto might also decide to make a reshuffle and dismiss all those ministers from Raila's party who joined government. So these are things that happen in politics. You do certain things to stabilize situation. We have seen it in Uganda, where President Museveni picks people from opposition to help certain situations, but when the shuffle comes, he leaves them in the cold.
Okay.
And I believe such can happen. And I can see it even in South Africa. South Africa, the Democratic Alliance might not come as clean as it has been because they have now joined government. So they'll have to take some of the baggage of the failures of the ANC government because that is now a coalition government.
Okay. Honorable, as we are just left with about 4 minutes, and this is already where I now want to understand, what can Kenyans and Africans that learn from the entire chaos in Kenya? What can they learn from the entire process?
Firstly, let us strengthen our local economy. Yes, we embrace foreigners too much. We give them a lot of leverage. They come, they do business here, they take the profits away. And then, let us not depend on one power alone. Let African countries depend on various forces. Let us, Kenya's problem is it is currently facing too much to the West because of the status the US government gave to Ruto. I believe, let African governments spread their wings. Because if you remain to one side, then when the crisis comes, you have nowhere to survive. So I believe Kenya must be able to have influence in the East, in the Middle East, with Russia and with the other powerful countries in the world. And let us stop corruption. Because the money that Kenya borrowed, understand, no much can be shown for its usage. Let us stop corruption. Let us use good policies. Let us utilize the natural resources we have. We have a lot of land that we can be able to till. We have a lot of minerals. Can we reduce on public expenditure? Ruto has been the most flying president in Africa, and that one has a lot of implications on the economy. He does not go alone. The entourage with which he travels, the fuel, the aircraft uses, and all the associated expenses has an implication on the national treasury. Okay. So if you can be able to reduce on the cost of public administration, be able to know how to play international politics, so that we're able to get advantages from all these powers to help advantage our particular countries and Africa in general, and empower the local citizens so that they're able to own the economy, so that they're able to pay more taxes, so that the more money is in the hands of the citizens. so that the purchasing power of the citizens is more.
Okay.
Then there will be more production in the country. Then there will be more wealth. So you will find out that you will be able to control. And the citizens will know that this is our situation, and there will be no riots because they own the entire process, like we see it in other countries.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that brings me to the point, Honorable. This is the very first time we are seeing these riots happen in Kenya. And in the past regimes, we not see that. And when you talk about one of the democratic and also countries in Africa, we always rush to Kenya. We say they are a bit democratic enough. I believe there's something that Ruto didn't go, because in the riots we were able to see this not so and so. We are not in so and so. If you want to go and this time, could it be that maybe somewhere the Kenyans felt something was not right, something was not adding up, and that sort of resulted to that riots in that?
I did say that there's a lot of resentment in the last general elections. There is a belief that Ruto did not win the elections fairly. Yes, that resentment is there, and it has never rested. Machezi Raila is claiming to be friendly, but underground, his supporters have never rested.
So they are moving on ground.
They are moving on ground, you see. And currently, unfortunately for the ruling party, it is social media that is moving the youths. You see, this mobilization was done using social media. That's why there's no prominent opposition politician who has been leading it. Now that people are able to talk online, and unfortunately or fortunately for these politicians, they don't have time to monitor social media. At times they even ignore. They say these youths can do nothing. So my urge to the leaders is you watch what is happening in people's phones. If you don't have time, allocate people who must be able to monitor the features, and they must be able to detect the dangers.
Okay.
So let us realign our politics. I still believe that Africa has a lot of resources. 60% of the arable land that is cultivable and be able to produce food for the entire world is in Africa. That is the biggest resource Africa has. Secondly, Africa has the largest amount of minerals underground that it can be able to use for its advantage. And Kenya's other advantage is its long coastline. It has the port of Mombasa, with which it can be able to trade with any part of the world and earn income. Okay. I believe something is wrong. Currently, Kenya's debt is more than its GDP ratio. It is even worse than that one of Uganda. Why has Kenya accumulated all this? What has this money done? Why has Uganda's economy developed more than that one of Kenya when we were landlocked? See, and Kenya, Nairobi is the economic hub of Eastern Africa.
Honorable, as we are just left 1 minute, and that will be ushering us into the newsroom Liberty, and the team is already here. I just want you to summarize maybe in 30 seconds as we pave way for the newsroom to come, and we hope we shall be able to sort of have you next time still to have more discussion in relation to this.
Therefore, what I'm still urging our government is be pro-people. Develop your local population. Stop depending on foreigners. They'll never love and own the country. Okay. Because they'll always be thinking about their home countries and taking our wealth away. Okay. Empower your citizens. Empower them. Empower them. The patriotism we're singing must not just be remaining in boardrooms, in open places. Okay, Honorable,
and also to the viewers who have received the PDM, empower yourselves, and that is where we are stopping with the discussions for today, and we shall be bouncing back on Monday for the same program here. And I've been Farish Majid together with LEMERIGHA FADHIL. We wish you a very good day and a good weekend as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.